what we will discuss insha'Allah ta'ala. And it also has integrals that we're not going to discuss them explicitly, but you'll see some of them implicitly. So he said, commissioning others. It is permissible to commission an agent to perform on one's behalf and be commissioned as an agent to perform on another's behalf any transaction that one is permitted to engage in. Okay, so basically in that we see two of the integrals, or two of the parties that are involved in this. So we have the person who's commissioning and the person who's being commissioned. So the person who's commissioning, if we were to say it in Arabic, he's the wakil. Excuse me, he's the muwakkil. He's the muwakkil. And the person who's being commissioned is the wakil. So in this case, it is permissible to commission an agent to perform on one's behalf and be commissioned as an agent to perform on another's behalf any transaction that one is permitted to engage in. So that's a condition. That typically, in order to make someone wakil, to commission someone, or to be commissioned, you and the person commissioning you both have to be able to engage in that type of transaction. So for instance, or dealing. So for instance, a woman can't be commissioned to be the wali in a marriage, because a woman can't be a wali in marriage herself. So she can't be commissioned to do so, and like that. Though there are exceptions to that. So an exception is a blind person. Like certain types of transactions, a blind person can't engage in it because they don't have knowledge of the dealing, because they can't see the article. But they can commission someone else to purchase it for them. And also there's another, they can do another type of transaction too. But in any case, that's an example of a transaction that someone themselves can engage in, but they can commission someone else to engage in it for them. And another example, and this isn't a transaction, but it's a type of dealings that one engages in. A child is not allowed to give of their own property themselves. They're not allowed to do hiba, or like to gift their property. And also, they're not allowed to give permission to someone to enter their home. However, they can be commissioned to do both of those things. So that's another exception. So for instance, if their father says, tell so-and-so that they can come in, and the child's known to be trustworthy, you can accept that. So they were commissioned to authorize someone into the home, even though they themselves couldn't give that authorization. And also you could take a gift and say, take this to so-and-so. And even though the child couldn't give gifts as an independent dealing from their own assets, they can be made authorized or commissioned by someone to do it for them. So there are exceptions to those, but the general rule is that you can't be authorized or authorize someone except in transactions that you yourself are allowed to engage in. And then again, as we mentioned, those are a couple of exceptions, and then there are other exceptions. So basically, the majority of transactions and the majority of people that we would authorize, that those conditions are met. So you can authorize someone to, as we said, purchase things for you, pay bills for you. You can authorize someone to be the guardian to marry one of, like for instance, if you have a daughter and you're going to be out of town or what have you, you could authorize them to be the wali in that, be authorized to, on behalf of the wali, to make the offer of the wedding, and then the groom accepts. Similarly, if the groom wasn't able to be present, the groom is able to authorize someone to accept the marriage on his behalf, and so forth. So a lot of transactions and a lot of things that we do entail authorizing someone to take care of it for us, and that's permissible, again, provided that the person who's being authorized and the one authorizing them, or the one commissioning them, are both able to engage in that type of transaction, him or herself. So for instance, you couldn't authorize someone who wasn't sane, and so forth. Or you couldn't authorize a woman, as we mentioned, to be the wali in a marriage. You could authorize her to divorce someone. You could authorize her to do a divorce, so that's another exception. She can't exact a divorce on herself, but she can be authorized to divorce another person. La ilaha illallah. Mm-mm.
he can authorize her
Um,
to tell another
yeah,
third party.
yeah. She could be authorized to tell, yani, Zainab is authorized to tell, Catherine that she's divorced. They can, that's one authorization that can happen. But Zainab can't. Zainab couldn't effect a divorce in her own marriage. Yeah, but she can be authorized to do it.
So she would be authorized by Catherine's husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's another one of the exceptions. But inshallah, I guess especially if it was a co-wife, they'd be like doing backflips. So, yeah, Latif. The commission is a revocable contract. Each party is entitled to rescind it at will. It is voided upon the death of either party. Okay, so basically what that means is like a sale is not revocable unless they put a condition to rescind, or if there's a defect. Like if I sell this book to Sundiata, I sell it to him for $10, he accepts, we part company, and it's not defective and no condition of rescission, that just means return, no condition of return was put on, then that's irrevocable. If I choose to rescind, that's fine, that's a good character on my behalf, but technically ownership has been transferred, and that's that. However, in the case of wakala, it is as how he translates it, it's a revocable contract. So some contracts are revocable, so all he has to say, like for instance, if someone was the wakil to receive someone's mail, for instance, and he's receiving his mail or he's paying a certain bill for him for a period of time, all he has, when he wants to rescind, he merely just says, I don't want to do it anymore, or what have you. And similarly, the person who commissioned him at any point, he can just say, oh, from here on out, I'll take care of it myself, or whatever nice way he wants to explain it. Who no longer needs him to be commissioned to do that. And then also, what's understood from that is that there was some way in which he had to commission him. And there is, and we mentioned that in the definition, that commissioning is through a phrase. And as we mentioned in a previous lesson, only marriage and the kind of contract we did called